Good morning, Rabotai. Let us begin. We are on page Dalid Amud Bet. If you're following in the art scroll, that is 4B1. Let's begin. Maybe close the door. Okay, perfect. No, just close the door. It's fine. 4B1. Okay, it's towards the middle of the page, right? You see the two dots, Ketzad. You got it there? Ketzad Chaliyot, yes? If you're following on the English side, it's 4B1, the Gemara by Ketzad, on the second column in the middle, okay? Says the Gemara as follows. Ketzad. Chaliyot b'sheni b'Shabbat, it falls out, 14th falls out on the 2nd of Shabbat on Monday. But Kefarim, v'ayarot gidolot korim bo bayom, they read on that day, as we said many times. And the cities with the wall read on the 15th. The Gemara asks a very interesting question now. Ma'ishna resha denakat sidura diyarcha, u'ma'ishna sefa denakat sidura diyoma. How come in the beginning of the Mishnah, resha means the head, sefa means the end? So resha is the beginning, sefa is the end. How come in the beginning of the Mishnah we mentioned sidure diyarcha, the order of the calendar, and when it came to the second part of the Mishnah, we mentioned the order of the days of the week? Why didn't we maintain the consistency that we start with the days of the calendar and continue with the days of the calendar? So if I'm talking Chinese to you right now, turn back to the first page of the Masechet, Bet Amud Aleph. Okay? The first page of the Masechet. Let's just take a look again. Megillah nikret biyud Aleph, biyud Bet, biyud Gimel, biyud Dalet. B'Tetvav. Megillah is read on the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, the 15th. That's calendric days. Okay? Not more, not less. They read on the 14th and the 15th. Then the Gemara says, except that the Kefarim, the villages, they go earlier to the Yom HaKinisa, to the day, to market day. Ketzad, the Gemara asks, Chaliyot Yudaled, if the 14th falls out on the second day of the month of the Kefarim, Kefarim v'ayarot gilot korim b'bayom, they read on that day. Umukafim chomar lemachar, and it tells you, it explains to you, how the 14th, if it falls on Monday, they read on Monday. And if the 14th falls on Tuesday, when do they read? On the 13th. If they fall on the Wednesday, when do they read? On the 12th. If they fall on the Thursday, they read on that day. If they fall on the Friday, they read on the 13th, because one day back to Thursday. If they fall on Shabbat, then they read again. The last case, the only case which gives us an 11 is when it falls out on Sunday. It's got to go back Shabbat, Friday, Thursday. That's the furthest distance that you could be from a Yom HaKinisa. So the Gemara says, number one, you made us go all the way backwards in dates, right? And number two, you shifted from talking about calendar dates, 14, 13, 12, like this, to talking about, to talking about days of the week. Now, the Gemara is going to give an interesting answer. Now, listen to this. The Gemara says as follows. The reason why we shifted is because since it's going to flip it backwards into the backwards order, and that could cause someone to get confused, nakat sidura diyomi. Instead, the order of the days of the week. So let me explain what the Gemara means, because it's not immediately evident what the Gemara is saying over here. The Gemara is trying to communicate that if I was trying to show you how you had a scenario for the 13th, for the 12th, and for the 11th, when is the 13th? On this day. When is the 12th? On this day. When is the 11th? On this day. The days of the week would be all over the place. You'd have scenario where you're talking about, as an example, 13th comes up when? On a Tuesday or on, right? A Friday, when you're going back one day. 12th falls out on when? On a Wednesday or on a Shabbat. 11th falls out when? On a Sunday. So the days of the week are all out of order. And that's going to cause a person to be able to not remember what the halakha is. So we wanted to have some seder. So what did we do? We shifted to the days of the week and we went through them. Monday is like this. Tuesday is like this. Wednesday is like this. Thursday like this. Friday like this. Shabbat like this. Sunday like this. Clear? I have one question. And the Ritva answers this question. If you wanted to go in order in the week, right? Why'd you start from Monday? What is the Mishnah's corporate? Either start from Shabbat or start from Sunday.
because you can't fast on Shabbat?
No, it's not. We're talking about reading the Megillah. We're not talking about fasting.
The first day.
So if you want to go during the week, the days of the week in order, I get you. Fine. So start with Sunday. And by the way, it works out really nice. Sunday is 11. Monday is nothing, right? Tuesday is 12. Wednesday is 13. It goes in order because 14 and 15 you have covered on the actual days of Purim. You wanted to teach me 11, 12, 13. How do you do that in order? You tell me Sunday, which is 11. Monday, which is the same day as it is because you read on that day. Tuesday winds up being the 12th because it's one day. It's a 13th, which is one day off. So that's you covered it in the easiest amount of space. Why don't you start with Sunday or with Shabbat?
Does this tie into the 19-year thing?
No. This is just in the way we're communicating to you the cases in the Mishnah. The Gemara is asking, why did the Mishnah set it up in a language of days of the week when it starts off by days of the calendar? So we should say 14, 12, 13. This is the scenario when you read on the 13th. This is the scenario when you read on the 12th. This is the scenario you read on the 11th. Instead, what does it do? It says, what if it's Monday? What if it's Tuesday? We're talking about days of the week, not days of the calendar. When you started, you were talking about days of the calendar. Answers the Gemara, because if I went in the days of the calendar, the days of the week would be all over the place because they're not in order. To give you the days, you don't go in order. So in order to go in order, what did I do? I said the days of the week. My question is, I have a better question. Start with Sunday then. You want to go in order. Start with Shabbat. If you believe that Shabbat is the beginning of the week. Fine, happy, very good, lovely. Start with Shabbat. You know what the answer is? Again, this is my chidush. Ritva asks this question. Start with Sunday. First question. Why does Ritva not ask start with Shabbat?
You don't read on Shabbat.
Okay, but all these days you're not reading on because you're moving it to the Yom HaKenisah. But you're right. I'm just pushing you away. I'm just pushing you back. How come we don't start on Shabbat? Because the reason why we don't read on Shabbat has nothing to do with market day. So the whole idea of 11, 12, 13 is because of moving back to the market day. The reason why we don't read on Shabbat is not because I want to go to the market day. It's because I can't read on Shabbat because we said the guy's going to carry the Megillah. So therefore Shabbat, even though it is the beginning of the week, it doesn't express what the Mishnah is trying to talk about, which is the fact that you go back to the market day. So that's the right answer. You see, don't just take it and say, okay, the rabbi said no. Right? Yeah? You understand? So Shabbat's not a good day to start with. But then start with Sunday. So I want to point something out, which I think is very interesting. Let's look at the Gemara for 1 second.
Hey, Rabbi, if you can't start on if you want to start on a Sunday,
yes,
you can't carry on Shabbat, then you would technically supposed to, like when you say start on Sunday, wouldn't you read Saturday night? And then you would already be in shul, but you can't carry.
No. I'm saying when the 14th falls on Sunday, when do you read?
It's a Shabbat.
No. When? Thursday.
Yeah, but Rabbi.
Oh, sorry.
Right? You go back to the day of the marketplace. So the whole Mishnah is really telling you this idea of the marketplace day. Right. If you start with Shabbat, Shabbat is not really about the marketplace day. It's about the fact that you can't read on Shabbat. Right. So when would you move it to? Fine, you'd move it to a marketplace day. But it's confusing to introduce this other concept when that's not what we're talking about. So I understand why we don't start with Shabbat. But if you want to go in order, and that's the whole reason why we shifted from calendar days to weekdays, start with Sunday. I want to point something out to you in the Mishnah that I noticed that's very interesting. Let's look at the Mishnah. 5 lines into the Mishnah. Chaliyot Yudalid, the 14th falls out. You guys see it? 4th line, 5th line of the Mishnah. Count 5 lines down from the top of the Mishnah. You got it? Chaliyot Yudalid B'Sheni. The 14th falls out on Monday. When do they read? No, in the Mishnah. In the Mishnah. Turn back to the Mishnah.
Very beginning.
Very beginning.
2:8. The end of the 5th line.
You got it? 5 lines down. Okay. Yeah. Chaliyot Yudalid B'Sheni. It falls out on the 2nd day. Kefarim Chaliyot B'Shelishi falls out on the 3rd day. Or B'Revi on the 4th day. Right? Chaliyot, if it falls out B'Chamishi on the 5th day. Okay. Chaliyot Erev Shabbat, Friday. Good. That's what you do. Chaliyot b'Shabbat falls out on Shabbat. What should the next day be?
Rishon.
Chaliyot Rishon. Go read. What does it say? 2 lines down. Chaliyot What?
Achar HaShabbat.
Achar HaShabbat. What's it calling Sunday?
The day after Shabbat.
The day after Shabbat. What the heck is that? Why doesn't it call it Echad? If the second day is Sheni or Rishon, they call Sunday the day after Shabbat. So it's very important to understand this. I think what's going on here, and the reason why the Gemara did not start with Sunday, is because Sunday was a holy day for another religion.
Ooh, wow.
And at the time of the Mishnah, they were very sensitive to the fact, and especially in the time of the Gemara, they were very sensitive to the fact that this was going to be a reality that they were going to have to contend with. It was true with the Christians, which, by the way, caused for major censorship to happen in the Gemara, in the Gemarot in Sanhedrin. If you open the Gemara Sanhedrin, you'll find that there are pieces that are put back into the Gemara in small letters that were cut out for centuries. Because if they found a Gemara that had anything anti-Yeshu, they would come, they would burn the books, they would kill people. So they had censors scribbling out the books. In fact, I don't know if you remember, I went to John Luke, to Sotheby's, and I got to see a 700-year-old Machzor, handwritten and illustrated from Ashkenaz, from Germany, back in the day. And there's large parts of the Machzor that are scribbled over, black ink, redacted. In Aleinu L'Shabech, right? Shehem Mishtachavim Leheva Varik, crossed out. You understand? So because of that, the Chachamim did not want to start Chaliyot be'echad b'Shabbat. What is echad b'Shabbat? Echad b'Shabbat is achar Shabbat. It's the day after Shabbat. It's not even its own day. So we wouldn't want to start with that day. That was my chidush. That's why I think maybe it doesn't start. If we're trying to find order in the week, that's why we didn't start with that day.
When it was written, what period?
The Mishnah is written at the end of the destruction of the second temple. Okay? So you have people in the Mishnah that come before the destruction. You have people in the Mishnah that come after the destruction of the temple. Okay? The Gemara starts to be written another few hundred years after that, when through the exile they start forgetting the Mishnayot. So Rabbi Yehuda Nasi compiles the Mishnayot from all of the writings of the Tanaim. Okay? And the Ravina and Ravashi compiled the Gemara from all of the machlokot, from all the conversations that were happening in the preeminent Torah centers at the time, and they codified that into the Gemara. This conversation, the back forth between all the different opinions, and that became the body of the Gemara. Okay, let's move on. The Gemara continues. Chaliyot be'erev Shabbat, if the 14th falls out on Erev Shabbat. Everyone back on the right page? Daf Dalid Amud Bet, or 14b1 at the bottom. Okay. Chaliyot be'erev Shabbat. If the 14th falls out on Friday, what day do we go to, guys? When do we read the Megillah? Thursday. Excellent. What about the people in large cities? When do they read? Bo Bayom. They read on that day, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same
day, because 15th, they're no problem to read on Friday. But the 14th people, when do they read? They read on the 13th on what's it called? On Thursday. Matnitan Mani, who is this going according to? I Rabbi Yossi. Either this Mishnah that's telling you that halacha, that the 14th people read on Thursday, the 15th people read on Friday, who is it going to? Either according to Rabbi or according to Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara says, my Rabbi. When you say Rabbi, what do you mean? Which Mishnah, which Braita are you saying that this is going according to his opinion? Let me explain what's going on here. A lot of times you'll have a Mishnah that doesn't have a name. It's not, the author is not given credit. So we just have a halakha in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says 14th day falls out on Friday. So on Thursday, they read on that day. 50, the people of the walled cities, they read on Friday. Who said that? Why is it important for the Mishnah to figure out who said that? Let me explain in a minute. So what we're going to do now is try and find evidence for which Tana that could be. Why is that important? Because let's say I find another Mishnah from the same rabbi. I've ascertained that this is Rabbi Yehuda. But in another place, Rabbi Yehuda tells me something which seems to contradict that. I have to realize that either this means something different than what I thought, or this means something that... Now, if that opinion is Rabbi Shimon, it doesn't make a difference what Rabbi Yehuda says somewhere else. But if it's Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda says something similar, somewhere else it's a little bit different, I have to either modify this a little, or modify my understanding over here. So that's why it's always incredibly important for the Gemara to figure out who said this. Okay? And when. Sometimes when did he say, which one did he say first? Okay. Gemara says, my Rebbe. What does it mean? The Tanya, the Braita says, Chaliot be'erev Shabbat, if the 14th falls out on Friday, Kfarim v'ayarot gedolot maktinim l'yom ha'kenisa, they go back to Thursday. Umukafim choma korim bo bayom. And the walled cities, when do they read? They read on bo bayom, on Friday. Right? This is when it falls. This is not the same case we just discussed. This is when it falls on Friday, the 14th. So the Kifarim v'ayarot gedolot, they would go back, because they always do, Mukafim choma, they would read Bo Bayom on the Friday, right? Now, what did we say if it's on Shabbat? When they would go back. Yeah. What did he just tell you? That the walled cities, where the 15th falls out on Shabbat, when did they go back to? Friday. We never heard that yet. Okay? So this Braita says that's when you read. Okay? Mukafim choma kurim b'bayom. Rebbe says, Omer ani lo yidachu ayarot mimkoman. Those cities, they shouldn't be moved from the day that they do it, 14th of Adar. Rather, elu va'elu korim b'bayom. Everyone reads on Friday. So the Shabbat people need to move back to Friday. The Friday people, lo yidachu. They should not be pushed off. We just clearly said in the Mishnah that if it falls on Friday, when do they go? They go back to Thursday. Rebbe over here says, I hold that not only do the Shabbat people read on Friday, which is not like our Mishnah, the Friday people read on Friday, which is also not like our Mishnah. Is this clear? So if you want to tell me that our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda, I have a Braita that just says Rabbi Yehuda blows you out of the water. That Rabbi Yehuda says nothing like our Mishnah. Okay? The Gemara says, okay, now let's look at the Tanakama, who tells us that the Friday people go back to Thursday like our Mishnah, but the Shabbat people go back to Friday, not to Thursday, which is not like our Mishnah. Right? Like, remember our Mishnah? The Mishnah said, if it falls on Shabbat, chal liyot b'Shabbat, kefarim v'ayarot maktinim korim l'yom ha'kenisa, u'makafot choma lemachar. They read on Sunday. Mukafim choma lemachar, they read on Sunday. So that is according to nobody, not the Tana, not Rabbi Yehuda. Okay? Okay. Says the Gemara, my Tanakama, what's the reasoning for the Tanakama? The Chtiv says, B'chol shana v'shana, in every year and in every year. That means that there's supposed to be a halacha which is synonymous from year to year. Ma kol shana v'shana, just like every year, ayarot kodmot lemukafim, the cities come before the mukafim choma, come before the walled cities. Afkan, also over here, ayarot kodmot lemukafim. The cities have to come before the walled cities. So therefore, if the walled cities are going to read on Friday, so we need to move the regular cities to Thursday. So to here, that's going to be the halakha. So since that's the case, we're going to move them from their place.
Why does it matter if walled or not?
We said in the Mishnah that every time there's a walled city, the walled city follows the halakha of Shushan Abira, which reads on the 15th day. So unwalled cities read on the 14th, walled cities read on the 15th. Okay? That's always, even till this day. There's cities that read on the 14th, cities that read on the 15th in Israel, and cities that are unsure what their status is, where they actually read on both days. Okay? Even till today, you have that the halakha. Okay. Gemara continues. So where did you learn that from? From Shana V'Shana. That even in a case where it did not make sense to do what you just did, in order to maintain the order of cities coming before walled cities, we pushed the walled cities to a place where they would the regular cities back a day, in order to be able to give them the same order that we would have in other years. Ve'ema, says the Gemara, if that you got from the pasuk of kol shana v'shana, ve'ema, let's say, b'chol shana v'shana, teaches you something else. Ma kol shana v'shana, en nidachin ayarot mimkoman. Just as every year, the regular cities don't move from when they're supposed to read. They always read on the 14th if they can. Afkan lo yidachu ayarot mimkoman. Why do you decide that the thing that will stay year to year is the order of walled cities versus unwalled cities, where unwalled cities come first, walled cities come second? Why didn't you learn that pasuk to just tell you, just like Echol Shana V'Shana, every year the unwalled cities read on the same day and keep them exactly where they are? Who told you to learn it that way? That you therefore making this halacha that I'm going to push these guys to Thursday. Answers the Gemara, Shani hacha, it's here different. Why? De lo efshar. It's not possible for the unwalled cities to read on the 14th. Why? Since we're talking about, right, a scenario where they can't read on the 14th, as I said before because it's Shabbat. So therefore, it's impossible to have a kol shana v'shana, since it's impossible for the law to stay the same every year with regards to reading on the same day because of a case of Shabbat. So therefore, I had to come up with another logic of Chol Shana V'Shana, that something would remain consistent from year to year. And that's why the Tanakh Kama says, I explained that it means that you know what remains consistent from year to year? That the unwalled read before the walled cities. The Gemara now continues. The Rabbi, my Tama, Rabbi, why does he learn this halakha that we just said? That if you remember, let's go back to what does Rabbi say? Rabbi says, Omani, lo yidachu ayarot mimkoman, elu va'elu korim bo bayom. The unwalled towns don't move from Friday, okay? Rather, what happens, they read on the same day on Friday, and the walled cities, which are supposed to be reading, where the 14th is on Shabbat, when do they go? They go on Friday, they also go to the same day. That's what Rebbe holds, okay? Question? No. Okay. So Rebbe says, okay, so what's my reasoning? My tamam, b'chol shana v'shana, this pasuk that tells us that there's a consistency year in, year out, ma kol shana v'shana in ayarot nidachim koman, just as every year the cities are not pushed off from their regular spot, afkan lo yidachu ayarot mimkoman. So too, every time the 14th falls out on Friday, the walled city reads on the 14th, even though it means they're going to share that same date. What's with the problem that the Tanakh Kama had, that there are days when it has to shift? Rebbe doesn't care about that. Okay? And let's say, how come he doesn't learn that the Tanakh Kama, that this consistency is coming to tell you who comes first and who comes second, just like every other year? Afkan, the Gemara therefore says, Shani hacha de lo efshar. In this situation where the unwalled cities can't precede the walled cities because the unwalled cities can't move, so therefore I don't have to have that scenario and I don't have to have that limud. So therefore Rabbi Yehuda learns it the way that he does, and the Tanakh Kama learns it the way that he does. Now, we now come back to where we were. So bottom line, we have a Tanakh Kama that doesn't say like the Mishnah, and we have Rabbi Yehuda who also does not say like the Mishnah. Is this clear so far? Our Mishnah says, if 14th is Friday, 15th is Shabbat, what do? The 14th people go back to Thursday. The Shabbat people go to Sunday. That's what our Mishnah says.
Wait, but the 14 people in a village or in a real town?
14th people in the villages
go to Thursday.
Go to Thursday.
But the people like in a Manhattan read on that Friday.
In a walled city?
No, just like there's villages, unwalled cities, and walled cities, right? There's three different distinct.
The cities and the villages and the cities read on the marketplace.
I thought the cities read on. They don't have to read on the marketplace. They can read on a Friday. Enough people.
Kifarim is always attached to va'ayarot gedolot. So in the Mishnah, as an example, they always went.
They're always grouped together.
Right. Kifarim va'ayarot gedolot korim Yudah. They always read at the same time. The only outlier is krachim amukafim choma. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. So the Gemara says. Okay. The Gemara says. Where are we?
The middle
Yes. So now we're going back. So is everyone clear? So we have a Mishnah that says 14th is Friday, Shabbat is 15th. The 14th people go back to Thursday. The 15th people go to Sunday. That's what the Mishnah says. We're trying to figure out who this is. The Tanakama says in a scenario of 14th Friday, 15th Shabbat, what happens? The 14th people go back to Thursday. The 15th people go back to Friday. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. The 14th people, which is Friday, they stay on Friday. The 15th people who can't do on Shabbat, what do? They go back to Friday. So everyone reads on the same day. So neither of those opinions is the Mishnah, which is perfectly fine. But if we're trying to ascertain who the Mishnah is, we got to find someone that the Mishnah is. Okay? The Gemara says, okay. My Rabbi Yossi, when you say that it could be Rabbi Yossi, so one second here. Okay, so now that we understand that maybe it's Rebbe because of the Friday date, that like we said, the Gemara now says, what if it's Rabbi Yossi? My Rabbi Yossi. How can it be Rabbi Yossi? And which statement of Rabbi Yossi would you say that the Mishnah could possibly be according to? Okay? The Gemara says as follows.
I have a question. How can it get moved to the Sunday if the first sentence of the Mishnah says that you can't read it no later than the 15th? If the 15th falls on Shabbat and the 16th is Sunday,
Right.
So how does it move to Sunday?
How did he ever say
That's the first sentence of the Mishnah.
Where are you? Chaliot,
I'm
Erev
just
Shabbat,
reading
Kefari Magdiv. Where
It says
in the Mishnah, you mean?
Yeah, the Megillah is read on the 11th or 12th or 13th or 14th or the 15th, not earlier than the 11th and no later than the 15th.
So when we were saying that
Chaliot,
Shabbat,
B'Shabbat, Kefarim v'Ayarot, B'Gdolot. No. One more time. Chaliot B'Shabbat means that the 14th is on Shabbat.
Oh, so the 15th.
So the 15th is the 15th. Sunday is the 15th. Right?
So you can't read it later than
They're not pushing it off at all.
Got it.
The unwalled cities are reading it on the walled cities are reading it on their day, on the 15th. Okay? Fine. So the Gemara says, okay, now that we know that it could be Rabbi Yehuda, and that's maybe who the Tanakh Kamav Mishnah is. Now, how do we know that it could be Rabbi Yossi? The Gemara says the Tanya, it says in the Braita, Chaliot Be'erev Shabbat, if the 14th falls out on Erev Shabbat, so what would be the normal case? The walled cities we can't read the next day because that's Shabbat. Mukafin ukefarim makdimim liyom hakinisa. Both the walled cities and the villages, when do they go back to?
Friday.
They go back to Thursday.
Market day.
They go back to the market day. Okay? Vayarot gedolot, and the large cities, when do they read it? Korim, they read on the 14th. Remember, the walled cities, when do they fall out on the same day as the unwalled large cities? When do they fall out on the same day? Let's be clear. Walled cities are 15th. When do the large unwalled cities go? 14th. But they don't always go back to the marketplace day.
Correct.
They only do that when they have to.
Right.
The krachim and the mukafim chomat, they're the ones that move. Sometimes the ayarot and the kefarim move together because there's a reason why the cities can't read on their day. So then they'll also go back to the marketplace day. Is that clear? With the kefarim. But like as an example, let me just give you a simple example. Let's say we're talking about the middle of the week. We're talking about Tuesday. 14th falls on Tuesday. When do the walled cities read? Wednesday. When do the unwalled large cities read? Tuesday. When do the small villages read? Monday.
Yeah,
That's why he was asking before that there are 3 separate classes.
No, there are 3 separate classes, but not in a scenario where the unwalled cities have to move for whatever reason. Because when they move together. That's the point.
But in that example, right?
Yeah.
On the 14th falls on Friday.
Yes.
So why does the unwalled large city have to go back to the 13th?
So
It's its own day. You can read on the Friday.
So
It's got a minyan.
according to the Tanakama, as an example, there's a reason because the Shabbat guys are moving to Friday. And the Shabbat guys, the walled cities and the unwalled cities can't be on the same day. Remember, he learns from B'chol Shana V'Shana that they need to precede them. So therefore, the walled city guys
But the Wall Street guys go to Sunday.
move back to. No, they don't go to Sunday.
I thought that was what the Mishnah said.
No, the Mishnah is saying when the 15th day is on Sunday.
The 15th day.
Here, the 15th day is Shabbat.
14th is Shabbat.
Chaliyot Shabbat is the 14th is Shabbat.
The 14th is on Shabbat, so
That's why-
so the unwalled large city goes to Friday, right?
The unwalled large city goes to Friday.
Okay.
Well, no. In the Mishnah, it goes to Thursday. It moves with the Kifarim to Thursday.
But why though? That's why I understand it's a separate category.
Because-
they have a minyan on Friday though.
Because once they're moving, why should they move to Friday? They'll move to the same day as the Kifarim. So Chaliot b'Shabbat, Kfarim v'Ayrot Gedolot makdimim v'korim Yom HaKnisa. They move together with the villages. Because if you're moving anyway,
You might as well move to
move together with the villagers are there. Yes.
Okay.
Okay? So you have only 2 dates there. But in a scenario where it's the middle of the week, so they're reading on their day,
Yes.
they're reading on their day, and the Kerachim are moving back to the Monday. Is that clear? So in this case, let's learn the Braita again. The 14th of Adar falls on Erev Shabbat. Okay? So the walled cities are reading on Shabbat. They can't do. So what do? They move back to Friday. Mukafim ukfarim akdim yom kinisa. We move the cities, the walled cities, and the Kifarim to Thursday. And the Ayarot Gdolot Kurim Bo Bayom. This we've never seen yet. The Tanakh Kama says, hold on. What happens if the 15th falls on Shabbat? The 14th falls on Friday. Okay? So who has a problem here?
Everybody. The
No,
walled cities.
the walled cities. They can't read on Shabbat. When should they go to?
The walled cities.
The walled cities.
Sunday.
No, it's on Shabbat. You never go
Sunday is
past.
16th. This time the
Sunday is
14th on
16.
Friday, so 15 is Shabbat, but they can't read on Shabbat.
Question. If they go to 14.
They got to go earlier.
They gotta go earlier.
So what do we see just now in the Braita? They go earlier. They go 14.
We just learned that the unwalled is before walled.
So
the same wall
so
as
one
the
second.
So what was
So
the Achar Shabbat thing then?
This is against the Mishnah.
Lemachar Shabbat is when they're 15.
Who's 15?
When the walled cities are 15.
On Shabbat.
When no.
Because it's on Shabbat, then they have to
Hold on. Let's go clear. Every time it says Chal Liyot b'Shabbat, it falls on Shabbat, we mean the 14th day.
Oh,
The
never the 15th.
We never talking about the 15th falling on Shabbat when you say Chal Liyot.
Got it.
Because you're saying when is Purim? Not when do walled cities read. You're saying when is Purim. So in the Mishnah it says Chal Liyot b'Shabbat, it means 14th is Shabbat. When is 15th? Sunday. When do the walled cities read? On that day.
Yeah, that makes
That's not the 16th. Here, if the 14th is on Friday, that means the 15th is on Shabbat. The walled cities can't read on the 15th. So when should they go? They got to go back.
Friday, yep.
But Friday, who's reading?
The
The unwalled
large
cities. Says the Tanakama. So the last Tanakama, what did he do? He took the unwalled cities. One second. He took the unwalled cities and he moved them to Thursday with the Kfarim, with the villagers. This Tanakama says, forget that. Today's my day, say the unwalled cities. I got Friday. You walled city, you can't read today. You go to Thursday.
Oh, but he can't proceed
that's-
on
We
it.
have not had this
Right?
yet.
That's negative the Mishnah.
This is not the Mishnah. So this is Tana. He's allowed to be not like the Mishnah. Yes.
Didn't just a couple years ago we have like what was called Shidei Purim where
Purim Mishulash.
Yes. You're asking on the halakha. We're not in the halakha yet. You're asking in the reality now. We're dealing with the Mishnah, with the Braita. Who says the Mishnah? Who says the Braita? Okay? So now we have a Tanakama that brought us a new halakha. That a walled city could read, there's a possibility that a walled city will be reading before the unwalled city.
Because it wants its own day.
Because the unwalled city has no reason to move.
But
Why
you
should I
can't do
move?
that. You can't have a walled city before. The unwalled has
This
to
Tana
always
saying
be-
you can't.
We have not had that yet. This Tana is saying you can have that.
Oh,
Now, by the way, what would be the logic for this Tana, having seen the Gemara we just saw? Maybe he learned B'chol Shana V'Shana, which means that there's a pasuk that tells us every year consistency. Read on the day that you're supposed to read. So therefore, I have a pasuk locking unwalled cities in onto their day, and then the walled cities, which had a 15th day, you have a problem, you deal with it. Okay? Let's move on. Okay. So Mukafim v'Kfarim Magdim Yom HaKnisa, they read on the Thursday. Vayarot Gedolot Kurim Bo Yom, they read on that day. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Rabbi Yossi says, En Mukafin Kodmin LaAyarot. The walled cities cannot come before the unwalled cities. That does not work. Okay? Therefore, elu va'elu korim bo bayom. They read on the same day. Okay? And when would the villagers read? Thursday, like always. They're always going to go back to the marketplace, no problem. But we push them back to read on the same day. So it turns out that this Rabbi Yossi in this Braita, what is he saying like? He's saying like Rabbi Yehuda. That Rabbi Yehuda said that when do they read? They share the Friday, and no problem. They both read on the same day. Elu ve'elu korim bo bayom. So I have a Rabbi Yossi that now looks like Rabbi Yehuda, which therefore could allow us to think that this is the Mishnah as well. The Gemara continues. Why does the Tanakama say what he says? It says that you need consistency every year. The walled cities, the unwalled cities, every year they read on the 14th. And also, the timing of the walled cities, the timing of the unwalled cities is not the same time. So therefore, Afkan, Ayarot ba'abasar, the cities will maintain their 14th day, and they can't be on the same day. So therefore, what happens? The walled cities go back 2 days, they go back to Thursday. So what the Tanakama just did is he took the words B'chol Shana V'Shana, and he said, I'm going to use them for two things. Number one, consistency tells me that an unwalled city reads the same day, every year. So therefore, 14th, I'm not moving. Don't make the Shabbat I go to Friday and make me go to Thursday. If today's my day, I'm reading on my day. And then he also learns that 14 guys and 15 guys should not be reading on the same day. So he learns two things from the Pasuks that says B'chol Shana V'Shana, which is a little bit of a, what do they call it, a cheat code? You know, when you're playing the game, right? Because how you get two things out of that? You know, it says consistent, you can learn one thing, right? That's what we did before. So he says consistency, that means that in order to have both of these rules, B'chol Shana V'Shana, therefore I'm locked in. Friday, these guys don't move. And since they don't move, the Shabbat guys that want to come to Friday are not welcome, because then Zmano Shel Zeh is not Zmano Shel Zeh. It's not this. They're not allowed to be on the same day, and therefore the walled people have to now go back to the 14th to read. The Gemara asks, "What do you mean? Ve'ema? How do you know to learn your limud?" Someone explain this idea. Let's say I have a pasuk and I want to learn a lesson from it. Okay. There's a concept called mufneh. What does mufneh mean? Mufneh means something is open. So if a pasuk is open to learn something from, because I have not learned something from it, then I could say, what is the pasuk coming to teach me? Must be coming to teach me this. But let's say the pasuk's already teaching me something. And now I want to learn out what I want to learn out. And I come and I say, this is what the pasuk's teaching me. What will I tell you? You can't say that that's what the pasuk's teaching you. The pasuk had to be there to tell you the other law. So if I could come up with another thing that the pasuk was coming to teach you, you have no right to say that that's what the pasuk is teaching you for your law. Is that clear? Now, sometimes what the Gemara will do is we'll say, one second, you're right, we can't learn two laws out of the same thing, or at least we can't prove two laws because maybe it's coming to tell me the other thing. But if it wanted to say your thing, then it could have said it this way, and then your thing would have been done. Because it said it this way, which is an extra word or an extra letter, like we saw, Zman, Zmanam, Zmanehem. If you wanted just to teach me that law, then you could have said it Zmanam. Why do you say Zman, Zmanam, Zmanehem? You added each time an extra letter. You came to teach me 11th day, a 12th day, a 13th day, and a 12th day, and an 11th day. So there has to be something that's empty, something that's open that I can hang my learning on, my idea on, if I want to be able to learn a pasuk. So the Gemara, in asking, let's learn this from B'chol Shana V'Shana, what's it really doing? It's telling the Tanakama, your idea, no, I got something else I want to learn from this, or that I have learned out from this. The Ema, let's learn out B'chol Shana V'Shana, Ma Kol Shana V'Shana in Mukafin Kodmin La'ayarot. Maybe we learn out that every year the walled cities come after the unwalled cities. Afkan in Mukafin Kodmin La'ayarot, also here, the walled cities should not precede the unwalled cities. So you just took the walled cities and moved them back because you said that the unwalled cities are locked in every day, are locked in every year, and as well that two people can't share the same day. Maybe don't learn that two people can't share the same day. And maybe learn instead that the consistency is that the unwalled cities always come after the walled cities. In which case, what would happen? The Shabbat guys would go to Friday, and the other guy keeping their day would now be in conflict. So who told you to learn that way? Gemara says, Shani hacha de lo efshar. In this situation where we don't have the opportunity to have them move forward because we locked in the 14th guys, so therefore I had no choice but to make the walled city people go back the other way, go back to Thursday, okay? The Gemara now is explaining the second opinion, which is the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, which was synonymous with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Gemara says, Maita Amad Rabbi Yossi, what is the reason for Rabbi Yossi that he said that when the walled cities can't read on the 15th, so they go back to the 14th, and everybody else stays on the same day. The walled cities stay on the same day. Just like every year, the mukafin, the walled cities don't come before the ayarot. Afkan en mukafin kodmin la'ayarot. We need a new meeting.
Oh, we went over 45 minutes or whatever the max is.
40 minutes, I guess.
Whatever it is.
Start a meeting.
There's someone
I wasn't checking. Wife was there. Participants. Invite. Copy invite link. Close. WhatsApp. Paste.
It's a real rabbi. You can do Android and iPhone. 2 minutes.
No.
We're in the Chidushim, 2 different Chidushim at the same time. Right?
Yeah.
And we're back. Okay. Says the Gemara, what's the reason for Rabbi Yossi? They don't come before. Afkan in mukafin kodmin la'ayarot. So to here, the mukafin, the walled cities, do not precede the walled cities. Okay? So therefore, what is that? How does that work? In order for the walled cities to read earlier, that's not possible. So, right, emukafin kodmin la'ayarot. So they can't read on Thursday. So therefore, they read on the same time. You understand this? He's learning mab koshan avshad. The consistency is that they don't come before. But there's no problem with them reading on the same day. Okay? The Gemara says, 1 second. Let's learn that. It's not the same time. The Gemara answers, you understand? In each scenario, the opinion of Tanakama, the Gemara asks, why don't you learn like Rabbi Yossi? The opinion of Rabbi Yossi, the Gemara asks the same question. Why don't you learn like Tanakama? The Gemara answers, Shani Hacha, over here it's not possible to avoid it, because since he learns the other dirasha, you understand what's happening here, guys? Each time they're learning 2 ideas, but those 2 ideas they stand in contradistinction to the third one. So as an example, if they read on the same day as they always read, and also they don't occupy the same day, then when the Gemara asks, what do you mean they always should come first? The answer to that is, I can't have these 2 and the third. So the other guy learns the other 2. The Gemara says, well, why don't you have this one? The Gemara says, because in order to keep these 2, I can't have the other one. Because it's not possible. Because then these 2 won't work. Right? You understand the 3 rules and how they... So the first rule is it stays every day. Stays every year. The second rule is that they don't fall on the same day. Now I want to introduce the third rule, which says that the mukafin choma always come after the other one. Gemara says, well, I'd love to introduce that rule, but in this case, they can't come after because it's Shabbat. They can't go to Sunday because that's the 16th. So where are they going to go?
So you're saying majority rule.
They're going to go before? I have no option to do that. So it has to be that they go to Thursday. And what am I going to keep? I'm going to keep that they're not on the same day, and I'm going to keep that they stay, unwalled cities stay on their day. Rabbi Yossi starts with the other 2, which is 14th always read on their same day. And the mukafin choma never come after the unwalled cities. Now the Gemara says, so what does that result in? They're both reading on Friday because the unwalled cities want to read on their day, and the fact that the mukafin choma, the unwalled cities never come before, he sticks that in already. The Gemara says, well, why don't you learn that they don't stay on the same day? The Gemara says, I have no space for that. Because if that's the case, it's impossible here. In order to fulfill my first two, I'm stuck with them both being on Friday. Because it can't be before the other one, and the other one can't move from the 14th. So the two that you hold of first don't allow for space for the third one to invade. And that's the Shani Hacha, the Lo Efshar, that it's not possible. Okay? Clear? Now, the Gemara says, V'sava Rebbe. Rebbe holds, Ayarot lo dachinan liyom ha'kinisa. Rebbe holds that they're going to read, the unwalled cities are going to read on Friday, and the Shabbat guys are going to read on Friday also. That's what he holds. So that means that the towns are not shifted to Thursday. That's what you're telling me? Ve'atanya, we have in a Braita. The Braita says, Chaliot b'Shabbat. Now this is a case where, don't get confused, where it's not Friday, that's the 14th. What if the 14th is on Shabbat? Kefarim makdimim liyom ha'kinisa. The villagers go back to read on Thursday, okay, which is always the case. The ayarot and the ayarot gedolot, they read on their own day, which is Friday. Go back to Friday, okay? Umukafot choma lemachar, and they read on Sunday, right? Now, what do we just do?
We just moved the villages one day.
The villages were moving
Anyway,
anyway.
to Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, but remember, 14th is on Shabbat. So we move the walled cities, not to Thursday with the Kefarim, we move them to Friday. Now, is that their day? No.
But nobody could read on 14, so it didn't matter.
So, right, but why don't we move the walled, in the Mishnah, if it falls on Shabbat, the unwalled cities move back together with the villages.
Yes, exactly.
Okay?
Thursday.
So that's not the Tanakama here. The Tanakama is saying, the walled cities, no problem, because they're anyway Sunday. Okay? Shabbat is the unwalled cities. So when would we have thought they go? Kifarim, with the Kifarim back to the marketplace day. Tanakama says, no, they go back to Friday.
This is your 3 classes.
Yes, this is.
Okay? Kifarim, well, that we also had that during the week, if you remember. Okay? Like a Tuesday. That would happen also. Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday.
That's why he...
Yes. Gemara continues. Va'ayarot gedolot korim be'erev Shabbat. Umukafot chama, they read on Sunday. Rebbe says, Omer ani, I say, ho'il v'nitchu ayarot mimkoman, since the cities were pushed from their place, which is Shabbat, yidachu liyom ha'kinisa, they go back to Thursday. So before, Rebbe was a problem to fit with the Mishnah, because he said, right, Sunday, Friday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Now what are we seeing?
Sunday, Thursday.
Sunday and Thursday, and that's it. Okay? So now we have Rebbe basically against Rebbe. Right? The Gemara says, contradiction. Gemara says, Hacha hashta. 1 second. You want to compare these two times? Hatam zmanam Shabbatu. When their time was Shabbat, when the unwalled city was on Shabbat, the hoil nidchu, they were pushed from Shabbat to Friday. So fine, now we shift them to Thursday, because anyway they were pushed. Ve'acha zmanam erev Shabbat. When they fall out on erev Shabbat, on Friday, and the walled city people fall out on Shabbat, so then he moves the Shabbat people to Friday. They read together with the unwalled cities, and the Kifarim move to Thursday. So it's not a contradiction that Rabbi Yehuda said that they move to Friday and the walled cities don't automatically move with the Kifarim. It's not comparable. The Gemara says, okay, fine. Kiman Azla, who is it going according to? Hada Amar Rabbi Chelbo Amar Rabbi Huna. Sorry, give me 1 second. Let's go back to the Mishnah. Chaliyot be'erev Shabbat. Yeah, let's look at the Mishnah again, right? Chaliyot erev Shabbat. Falls out on erev Shabbat. You see me? I'm about halfway through the page in the Mishnah. You guys with me? 2A1. Right halfway through the page, the first words on the line are erev Shabbat, ayin shin. You with me? Right here. Erev Shabbat. Chaliyot, Erev Shabbat. Right there. Yeah, you got it?
One line up from the gray line.
Perfect. Chaliyot, Erev Shabbat. You see that? If it falls out on Erev Shabbat, 14th falls on Friday. Now you tell me who this reminds you of. Chaliyot, Erev Shabbat. If it falls out on Friday, Kfarim Makdimim Liyom HaKnisa. The villages go back to Thursday. Vayarot Gedolot, and the big cities, when should they be reading? Remember, 14th is Friday. When should the big cities be reading?
The 14th.
On foot, that's their day.
Yeah.
Kefari move back to Marketplace. They always move back to Marketplace.
Yeah.
Big cities read on their day. Mukafot Choma, which their 15th day would be on Shabbat. When should they be reading? Korim Bo Bayom. They can't read Sunday. That's 16th day.
So what do they do?
When do they read? Friday. Who told us that just now? Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi. That we're allowing the walled cities, unwalled cities, to share Friday.
When that's the only way.
When that's the only option. When the unwalled cities were pushed from their day, says Rabbi Yehuda, then I'm going to move them back to Thursday, which is exactly what the Mishnah says. Chaliot b'Shabbat, then we move them back. Relax. It's good. They're here. In the Bet HaKnesset. Shifti Bet Hashem. Koi mechayai. Okay? Now, the Gemara continues. So now we have, let's just finish with this. The Gemara says, Keman Azla. This, we have a line that comes from the Amoraim. And we want to know who it goes according to. Keman Azla. Hada Amar Rabbi Chelbo Amar Rabbi Huna. Rabbi Chelbo said in the name of Rabbi Huna, Purim shechaliyot b'Shabbat. If Purim falls on Shabbat, Hakol nidchim liyom HaKnisa. Everyone goes back to Thursday. Have we seen that yet? Nobody said that yet. This guy walks into the shul. The guy walks into the Beit Midrash. He says this. Everyone turns around. They want to kill him. By the way, you know what's beautiful? What's beautiful is that the way you all just felt for 1 second when I read that line is how they felt in the Beit Midrash. Guy walks in. He's like, guys, Purim falls out on Shabbat. Everyone reads on Thursday. Even the guys that were in the middle of reading Tehillim, guys in the middle of a sandwich, right? But that feeling that you just felt, that means you're part of the conversation, of the living conversation of the Gemara. We just went back in a time machine, thousands of years, that feeling of shock. Gemara says, who holds that? The Gemara says, hold on. Hakol nidachin sal kadaitach. 1 second. Do you think that the guy meant to say everyone gets shifted to Thursday? V'ha'ika mukafin. If Purim falls out on Shabbat, Hakol nidachin, everyone goes back to Thursday. The Sunday, guys, that's their actual day. There's no reason for them to move. For the walled cities. Ela kol hanidche yidache liyom haKnisa. What he meant, he must have meant, is that anyone that gets pushed off to Yom HaKnisa. Now who is that?
Unwalled and Kfarim.
Unwalled and Kfarim. Who holds that? That we just mentioned? Rabbi Yossi. Well, we don't know about Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi didn't talk about this. Rabbi Yehuda, our Mishnah. That's what our Mishnah says. Keman ki Rebbe, according to the opinion of Rebbe that we just said in the Beraita. Now, the Gemara is going to delve into a new subject, which we'll leave for Wednesday. We're going to go back to understanding why we cannot read the Megillah on Shabbat. We've already given one idea, one logic. We're worried that the guy's going to go take his Megillah to the rabbi to teach him how to read. We're going to see a further exposing and a further elucidation of why this is the case, why we do not read the Megillah on Shabbat. Baruch